It's time to do a quick review on the all-new 2018 Kia Rio. Now just look at it. Look at the front. It's got the traditional Kia grille, which no one else shares with them. It's this simplistic look on the front and the back. Halogen headlights, minimal use of sensors and all the modern technology that you find. Now yes, this is the fully loaded trim or the 5-door for about $19,000. That's as much as you're gonna pay. Now, while I'm on the whole topic of cost, me and Turbowski talk about this all the time. We get in and out of all these modern cars that are just, the price tags have swelled so much. I don't know how people can afford a lot of this stuff. So I can't tell you how excited I was to find out this is one of the cheapest cars available in the US. The entry-level price on the base models of this and the sedan are about $14,000. And at $14,000, you might expect it's a total turd. But let's get into some of that. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this car is not gonna turn any heads. You're not gonna pull into your driveway. Your neighbors aren't gonna run over with all the models and say, "Oh, did you just get that new Kia?" No, that's science fiction. No different than if you're a woman. 3 firefighters aren't gonna be fighting over you slapping their hoses on the hood of your car. This Rio is for kind of 2 different types of people. The first one is more budget oriented, or somebody that doesn't have a lot of disposable income to spend on a new car, or that doesn't want to risk the used car game, because we've all been there, most of us, where you get a used car, you think it's a great deal, and you wind up sinking too much money into it. This gives you reliable transportation with a warranty for not a lot of buy-in. Now, the other car market might be something that a lot of people don't talk about. If you're a car enthusiast, somebody like myself who's been through new, used, expensive cars, cheap cars, and gets burned out with losing so much money on them, this to me is extremely attractive because it's like taking a time machine back 20 years ago when cars were a lot more simple. Yes, you have a direct injected motor, 6-speed automatic transmission in this model, but when you start to strip this down to more of the base model, you don't even have keyless entry. You still have, old school headlights. You don't have a bunch of sensors and all that stuff to worry about. Really, the only thing mechanical to worry about is the engine and transmission. Even the head units are basic on the base model. So this has a lot of potential for somebody that's looking for cheap transportation. Now, when I was 20 years old, I struggled to get by. I had a Ford Taurus that's transmission blew up twice, and I went into credit card debt to fix it. And the third time that it blew up, me and my girlfriend started looking for new cars because we didn't want to go down the used route again, and I didn't know a lot at that point. So one of the first cars we looked at new was the Kia Rio. And we got into it and drove it, and I think it was like $9,000 or $10,000 at that point, which was still out of our budget. And I thought, I have hit rock bottom driving this car. It was so bad. And that's the thing with this new Rio. They understand where to put the money, and a lot of it has to do with the interior. You don't feel like you're driving a total turd. It doesn't feel like you just got a demotion or your life is going down the gutter. It feels really good. It's spacious. It's well thought out. This is taking a lot of what's really good in like the Optima, the other Kias in the higher level, and putting it down at this into an affordable car for the masses. I feel like Kia is almost doing a public service with this car, making it so cheap and how well it is on the interior space. Now, the interior is one thing, but how usable is this as a regular car? Now, I get a lot of emails. One of the biggest ones being, what's the cheapest new car that I can get that's not going to bankrupt me and that's not a total piece of crap? And me and Scott have just totally shied away from a lot of these questions because it gets into personal opinion and you don't want to steer somebody wrong. The first time you recommend a car, they have nothing but problems. So it sucks to talk about this. But really, for a cheap car, one of my favorite ones has been the Toyota IA, which is a rebadged Mazda 2. The problem with the IA, they don't sell it as a hatch. It's only a 4-door, and that is what makes this car special. Now, granted, you can get a 4-door, but this is what you want to spend your money on. It's not a lot more, and you get all of this. Once the seats are folded down, you can really cram a lot of stuff in here. It makes it almost like a CUV. Now, the trade-off is you don't have a ton of back seat space. You have to move the front seats up a little bit, but once you do and you adjust to that, this becomes really a good value for how much it is. Now that I've put the new Rio on the BendPak lift, This is their new subcompact architecture. And this is the first place you're gonna notice where all the cost cutting happened. This looks so modular in terms of the control arms being stamped steel, the subframe carrier, the way all of this is laid out. You can tell they went for a minimalistic approach. There wasn't an overuse of body covers to cover the whole front half of the car. Yes, there are the composite panels here to smooth out airflow, a little bit of aerodynamics that you're finding on some of the newer cars to somewhat quiet it down, but the rest of it is just basic. And you know, I gotta tell you, when you get under here, it's a negative, but it's also a huge pro in this price point, because all you have to do to change your oil is get under this front panel. You don't even have to remove it. Your oil filter's here, your drain plug's here. I mean, you could literally do an oil change on this thing in probably 5 minutes and be done. The serviceability aspect of it, you know, your transmission mount or your engine mount is here. All you have to do is put a jack stand under here or a trans stand to hold this up, and this will pull out in 2 seconds. Your subframe carrier can be removed in probably 20 minutes. I mean, it's unbelievably simple, and that's the trade-off. Hey, you lose some of the complication, it's cheaper, and well, here it is, easy to work on. We make it to the back of the Rio, and this is where you see a little bit more cost cutting. Simplistic approach. It's a pro or con depending on who you are. First thing to talk about, the torsion beam rear end. No independent rear suspension here. And you can see that the torsion beam has a hard mounting point at the chassis on both sides, and that's it. It connects directly to the hub. The only other mounting point is the shock absorbers that mount to the end of the torsion beam all the way up to the strut towers. And this is why, when you look at it, I mean, literally you could pull this whole thing down in 10 minutes. I mean, it is so simple to work on, but the trade-off is ride quality. You're not gonna get the handling. You're gonna get a little bit more springy ride because of this whole beam. It's just the way that it works. But the thing is, at this price point, you can totally accept that. You can accept the fact that the undercoating spray doesn't extend under the chassis of the car, only the sides, that they haven't undercoated the whole underbody. You could see there's a lot of structural adhesives like they've used on modern cars to quiet it down, to use the rigidity that way. I mean, there's pros and cons here, so a lot of the good stuff that's trickling down from their higher end models is here, and then you can see where they've kind of reined it in to cut the cost. And again, it depends on how the car drives. So let's take it for a quick spin and see how that works out. Driving the 5-door Kia Rio. What is it like? Well, I'm going to talk about the main thing why I like this vehicle. People keep asking me, what's a simple, affordable car that's just kind of no bullshit in the modern age? And this is one of them. The other one I got into that I really enjoyed was the Scion IA, which is now the Toyota IA. And this car has so much of the same thing, but in terms of usability, it's way better. The interior space, the width of it, the overall comfort is great. And the best thing about this is you're not saddled with all the sensors, radar cruise control, the frontal crash mitigation, blind spot monitoring, all the camera crap and all that stuff. You don't have to worry about braking. The next thing that you're gonna really appreciate is just its level of simplicity. This is a basic car. You pop the key out, you turn the key in the ignition, and you go. You're not gonna have to worry about a lot of the long-term nonsense that you have to deal with a lot of modern cars, and that's one of the biggest and best and brightest spots of this Rio in general. Now, if you're buying the Rio, you're looking for efficiency mostly. I'm getting 34 miles to the gallon. When you drive this hard, the first thing you're gonna notice about it is it's got smaller wheels and tires, and one of the huge benefits of that is ride quality, but the trade-off is in your steering feel. It's a lot more squishy. It favors just being comfortable rather than sporty. But the benefit that is you don't have to deal with 18 and 19-inch tire sizes, so when you go to replace these tires, it's gonna be much cheaper. Overall, that's really the point of this car. The running costs are gonna be low. It's simple, easy to operate. It's just non-intimidating. Now, in terms of acceleration, it's got that classic 4-popper feel to it. It's this 1.6 liter motor that's been recycled from Hyundai and Kia. Direct injection, it likes to rev. You have to pound it around all the time to get it to go. And that's also a huge negative because it's raspy. It doesn't sound that great, but it also gives you that entertainment value that you know you have to beat the snot out of it to get it going. And once it's going, it's a non-issue. It really does pick up quick, but it's not, it's not going to blow you away. It's just adequate for this car. Now, one of the last parts about the driving experience is the transmission, and this has a torque converted transmission. And you might be worried, is it slow? Is it sloppy? It seems to do an extremely good job at downshifting. As soon as you hit the throttle, it's right on the money with getting you into the lowest gear possible. And I don't have any problems with the transmission in this car. I prefer it over a dual clutch unit because it means it's going to be less costly to repair. You're not going to have to worry about some of the crap, the kind of lagginess from the start. It's just tried and true. And I think for this type of car, it works really well. I would obviously prefer a manual transmission because I think it would make this car a little bit more fun. But for 95% of people, you're just going to get this with the auto trans and you're going to have zero issues with it. It's just quick enough to be kind of fun and smooth enough not to alarm you. Final thoughts on the new Kia Rio. Someone asked me, well, was it hard to get into this car after you've been into $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 vehicles or sports cars? And I said, no, not at all. The transition for me was seamless. In fact, this makes a lot more sense than plenty of the expensive cars I've driven. And that is because I don't see the value in driving an expensive car just for the sake of it. This did everything that most of the other vehicles that I've driven does. It rides well, it's got a decent suspension, it feels light on its feet, the engine is pretty quick, it gets good fuel economy, I could fit all my crap in it, and it doesn't raise any red flags. And the best part was, if I was going to buy it, I wouldn't be in the poorhouse for owning it. And I think that says a lot about what they tried to do with this vehicle. You don't feel bottom of the barrel when you're in it. And that's because it's not a bottom of the barrel car. It just goes to show you, yes, you can still get something that's decent at an affordable price. But of course, there are trade-offs. The underneath, hey, they got to cut costs somewhere. It doesn't have all the latest tech and safety features. So if you're looking for a younger person, if you're a parent looking for a kid's car that they can just destroy, well, not having all those safety nannies there might bother you. But if you're somebody conversely that's older, that doesn't need all that crap, here it is. And that's the thing about looking at the pros and cons of cars that you see after a while of being in them. And I hope that helps you. Take care.